"Ma'am, please save my dad." The little boy's voice cracked through the cold hospital hallway, clutching a crumpled wallet in his tiny hands. He wasn't just crying, he was begging. And when the nurse saw whose son he was, her heart froze. Because the man fighting for his life inside that room was the billionaire who once fired her for being poor. Subscribe for more stories like this, and comment your country so we know where our family's growing. The little boy's trembling voice echoed through the dimly lit hospital corridor. His hands shook as he held out a crumpled wallet, eyes red from crying. The night nurse, Amara Jenkins, turned sharply, her heart instinctively alert. It wasn't the first time she'd heard a child beg for help, but there was something in his tone that pierced straight through her chest. She followed him down the hall, her sneakers squeaking against the polished floor, until she saw him, a man slumped in a chair near the emergency room doors. His designer suit was soaked from the rain, and his face had turned pale. The boy fell to his knees beside him, sobbing uncontrollably. Amara rushed forward, dropping her clipboard. "Sir, sir, can you hear me?" She touched his neck, a faint pulse, but weak. The man's eyes fluttered open for a second before rolling back. "We need a stretcher here," she shouted. The doctors rushed in, and Amara began chest compressions. The boy clung to her coat, whispering between sobs, "Please, ma'am. Please don't let him die. Please." The man gasped suddenly, air returning to his lungs. They wheeled him toward the ICU, but before the doors closed, the boy's trembling voice reached her again. "His name is Elliot. Elliot Graves." Amara froze. The name hit her like a cold wave. She hadn't heard it in 2 years, not since the day he destroyed her life. Elliot Graves, the billionaire who once owned the hospital. The man who looked her in the eye and told her she wasn't management material when she begged him to keep the community clinic open. He'd shut it down overnight, leaving hundreds without care, and leaving Amara without a job. And now fate had brought him back, helpless, gasping for life, in her care. Still, she swallowed her emotions. "Get him to surgery," she said calmly, her voice trembling just slightly. Hours later, the chaos died down. The storm outside raged on, lightning flashing across the sky. Amara leaned against the wall outside the ICU, exhausted. Through the glass, she could see Elliot lying unconscious, tubes running across his chest. The boy sat in a corner, hugging his knees. His hoodie was soaked, his shoes muddy. "They said my dad had a heart attack," he whispered when she approached. "He was fine this morning. We were supposed to get ice cream." Amara knelt beside him. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Liam." "Liam, he's going to be okay. He's strong." He looked up, his big brown eyes shining with tears. "Everyone says my dad's mean, but he's not. He just misses my mom." That last part broke her. She looked at the frail little boy, realizing he wasn't just scared, he was alone. For the next 2 days, Amara checked on Elliot's condition every chance she got. Each time she saw Liam sleeping by his father's bed, her chest tightened. The boy would talk to her endlessly about his school, his mom who'd died in a car accident, and how his dad used to smile a long time ago. When Elliot finally woke up, it was past midnight. The monitors beeped softly. His eyes flickered open, confused. He stared at Amara for a long moment before whispering, You work here?" "I do," she said quietly. "You're in St. Mercy Hospital." He turned his head away, shame washing over his face. "You should have let me go." Amara crossed her arms. "I don't get to decide that. I'm a nurse. I save people, even the ones who once made my life hell." Elliot's jaw clenched. For a long moment, silence filled the room, the kind of silence that carries the weight of years. Finally, he said softly, "I remember you." "I'm sure you do," she said coldly. "You laid off over 100 nurses that week." He closed his eyes. "You think I don't regret it?" "I don't think about you at all," she said. "Now get some rest." But as she walked away, she couldn't stop thinking about that boy's pleading eyes. The next morning, she came in early. Liam was sitting by the bed, feeding his father spoonfuls of oatmeal. Elliot watched her walk in, his expression unreadable. "He tells me you've been looking after him," he said quietly. "I have," she replied. "He's a brave kid." Elliot nodded. "He gets that from his mother." For the next week, Amara saw a side of Elliot she never expected. Gone was the cold, ruthless CEO. In his place was a broken man trying to hold on to what little he had left, his son. He'd talk to Liam about his day, about school, about the mother he missed. And sometimes, When he thought no one was looking, he'd wipe away tears. But one afternoon, chaos erupted again. Amara arrived at work to find lawyers in suits arguing in the lobby. Elliot's company, Graves Enterprises, had collapsed overnight. His partners had betrayed him, taking everything. His accounts were frozen. The once mighty billionaire had nothing left. Later that night, Amara found him staring out the window, lost in thought. "You okay?" she asked softly. He smiled bitterly. "You ever watch everything you built fall apart in front of you?" "Yes," she said, crossing her arms. "When you closed my clinic." He looked down, ashamed. "I guess now I know what that felt like." She hesitated, then said gently, "Maybe this is your chance to rebuild something better." Elliot let out a dry laugh. "You think a man like me deserves that?" "Maybe not," she said. "But your son does." He didn't reply, but something shifted in his eyes, the first spark of humility she'd ever seen in him. Weeks passed. Elliot's health improved, but he stayed quiet, often sitting by Liam's side, drawing plans in an old notebook. Amara noticed he'd started talking to the patients, helping elderly men with their trays, even reading stories to the children in pediatrics. Then one day he was gone. No discharge papers, no goodbyes, just gone. Amara assumed he left quietly, too proud to thank her. Life moved on. Months later, St. Mercy Hospital received shocking news. An anonymous donor had funded the reconstruction of the old community clinic that Elliot once shut down. This time, it would serve the poor for free. When the hospital unveiled the blueprints, Amara's breath caught in her throat. The clinic's name read, "The Jenkins Center for Healing." She was stunned. Who did this?" she asked. Later that evening, she saw a familiar face in the hallway. Liam, holding an envelope. "My dad wanted me to give you this," he said shyly. Inside was a handwritten note. "You taught me what real wealth means, the kind that saves people, not controls them. This clinic belongs to you, Miss Jenkins. You saved 2 lives that night, mine and my son's." Beneath the note was a check, Elliot and Liam Graves Foundation. Amara's eyes welled with tears. She looked down the corridor, and there he was, Elliot Graves, standing with his cane, smiling softly. No longer a billionaire, no longer proud, just a man who had finally found peace. Months later, the new clinic opened. Bright sunlight poured through its windows. Children laughed in the halls. Amara walked through the building that now carried her name, overwhelmed with gratitude. On the wall hung a plaque, in honor of second chances, for those who save, and those who learn to be saved. She smiled, touching the brass letters gently. "Ma'am," a familiar voice called out. She turned. Liam came running in, holding 2 melting ice cream cones. Behind him, Elliot followed, dressed simply, no suit, no arrogance, just warmth in his eyes. "We brought ice cream," Liam said proudly. Amara laughed. "You finally kept your promise." Elliot smiled softly. "Thanks to you, ma'am, we both did." The 3 of them sat outside the clinic that afternoon, the same sun that once hid behind storm clouds now glowing golden above them. Life had come full circle, not through money, not through power, but through forgiveness. And that's how a poor nurse saved a billionaire. Not just his life, but his soul. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments, what do you think true wealth really is?